So you're just setting out on a long ride and you want to know what to take with you to eat. So keep watching the video to find out how to fuel for long rides. So the first thing to remember is that in your body, you're probably storing, if you haven't done any exercise for a while, probably storing enough sugar or glycogen in your muscles and liver to last for an hour, 2 hours, depending on how hard you're going, probably 2 hours if you're doing easy. And the thing is, when you go out for a ride, you want to, especially if it's a long one, 4 to 6 hours, you don't want to just use up that glycogen. You want to sort of eke it out over the whole trip if you can. And the key to doing that is to eat carbohydrate on the bike regularly to supplement that glycogen you've got in your muscles, not to replace it completely. You could, if you're fat adapted and very used to doing long, slow rides, you could find your body uses fat quite well as a fuel source, and as you get more into cycling, your body gradually develops that ability, especially if you're doing long rides regularly, to use fat. So with a combination of that fat, your body's glycogen and carbohydrate you're taking in, you should be able to fuel a long ride. You should be able to fuel a long ride without bonking or hitting the wall, or one of those phrases you might want to use for meaning basically your body's run out completely of sugar and glucose and it can't produce any energy and you're left at the side of the road completely exhausted. So what should you be eating? So whatever you are eating should be very easily digestible, probably quite moist or liquid. That way the body can digest it when you're on the move. The last thing it's going to do when it's trying to pump blood to your muscles is send a lot of blood to your stomach to digest some heavy food. So it should be easily digestible. The last thing you want to do as well is have an upset stomach and end up like Tom Dumoulin, if you remember, in the Giro a few years ago, having to stop to go to the toilet at the side of the road. Or in more recent times, Mathieu van der Poel stopping to use a toilet in Scotland when he won the World Championships. So it should be easily digestible food, hopefully quite moist. So let's dive deeper into the sorts of things you can eat on the bike. One thing to remember is that you don't start eating when you're hungry. If you know you're doing a long ride, you want to start eating probably as soon as you've left, or if not before the ride. You could have something like a gel or something easily to digest to go on board, and then start eating within probably the first half hour, and every half hour after that keep having something to eat or drink to make sure you're fueling. If you wait till you're hungry or feeling like you're a bit tired, you've probably left it too late. So let's have a stop and look at the sorts of things we could be eating on the bike. So the first thing you want to be doing really is making sure you're eating carbohydrate or glucose, or particularly glucose and fructose. When you have a mixture of glucose and fructose, your body can take in more. If you just take one of those sugars, your body can take in a certain amount. If you take both of those sugars, your body uses two different pathways to absorb those sugars so you can take in more. And what you're looking at is trying to take probably between 60 to 100 grams an hour. So the pros will probably try to take, nowadays, they take between 100 and 120 grams an hour, which is a lot of carbs an hour. And you really need to sort of train up for that. So if you know you're going to do a long ride, it might be worth on shorter rides practicing eating the same sort of amount of food that you're going to be doing on the long ride. Practice on that shorter ride to make sure your stomach can cope with that, because actually you can train your stomach to take in more glucose or more sugars. So the sorts of foods you want to be eating on the bike are things like bananas, soft food, maybe a flapjack. That flapjack's got at least 400 calories in it. So if I'm sort of nibbling that over an hour or two, that's going to provide quite a lot of carbohydrate. So this flapjack's got 55 grams of carbs in it. So if I split that over a couple of hours, that's about 25 grams an hour for that. I could mix it with a gel, and again that's probably about 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate. This one's got 23 grams of carbohydrates. You could have some flapjack, you could have a gel, and of course you've got your energy drink mix. So if you mix some energy drink up, take that regular sipping of that, you're again could be taking in another 20 or 30 grams of carbs from your energy drink mix. And there's a video I'll link to below about how to make some cheaper energy drink mix and some of the stuff you see in the shops. Okay, so but combining your drink, flapjacks and gels, you could be taking in that sort of 60 to 90 grams an hour. If you have a look on the packet, it'll say how many grams of carbs it is. And as I said, you really want to be doing that as soon as you've started riding, not wait till you're hungry to start eating. Anything else you can think of that's sort of soft and sugary, like jam sandwiches, they might be an okay thing to have. Anything like dates, you could take dates, although like on a long ride, you'd have to be taking quite a few dates to give you that sort of carbohydrate amount you're looking for, about 60 grams an hour. So if you've got any other ideas of what to eat on the bike, drop them in the comments below. It'd be interesting to see what other people have as a snack on a bike. So lastly, don't forget, it's not rocket science. It's just, looking at the packets, seeing what carbs it has and trying out. The key thing is to try out the food you're going to be eating before you go on a big ride. The last thing you want to be doing is entering an event and then finding out you don't like what you've taken with you. It's also a good idea, if you're on a big event, to check out what food might be provided at feed stations and try that beforehand as well. Because if you know there's a certain brand that's going to be given out at the feed stations, it's worth trying that brand, giving it a go before you do the big event, so your stomach can take it, or you find it tasty. The good thing is, if you find food tasty, you're going to be eating more of it, and it really is hard to sort of overeat on a bike. If you're working hard, you're going to be producing or using a lot more calories than you're taking in, whatever you're eating. And that's another thing to think about too, is that when you're fueling on a bike, you're not just fueling your ride, you're also fueling your recovery. If you eat well on the bike and give yourself lots of carbs and you help your body, you don't sort of starve it on the bike, you're far more likely to recover well and then be ready for a ride the next day. So a good thing to do as well after the ride is to make sure you're again loading up on carbs, maybe a bit of protein, to replenish all that you've lost, so that you are ready and recovered for a ride as soon as you can be. Don't forget, you can always pop into a service station or a shop on the way. Most shops like that on roadside will have sugary drinks for sale, sweets. Drinking a can of Coke is a good way to get some sugar inside you, a nice easy way to digest it too. Or sweets like jelly babies or those sorts of things which are high in sugar. Anything like that is going to give you or help you to get to that 60 to 90 grams an hour or more if you can manage it. So don't forget, if you've got any good ideas, drop them in the comments below, and until then, I'll see you next time.